As we continue journeying through the Bible this week, we remember that the kingdom of Israel experienced a civil war and it split into two. After King Solomon, the kingdom was divided, and so we had a northern kingdom called Israel and then a southern kingdom called Judah. Last week, David preached about the prophet Jonah, and Jonah was in the northern kingdom. This week we've moved forward about 50 years, and we're in the southern kingdom, and we're looking at words from the prophet Isaiah. Now the passage begins telling us that Isaiah had this encounter with God in the year that King Uzziah died. Now this is an important little detail that we would miss today because we don't know King Uzziah, and that doesn't mean much to us. It's as if we said this happened the year the Chicago Cubs won against the Cleveland Indians. It sets a context for the people. Well, Uzziah was a stabilizing and popular king, and his death had a significant and destabilizing effect for the people who lived in the kingdom of Judah. So there are parallels between Isaiah's time and the political turmoil of the times that we live in today. So let's listen now to the Lord's word for us this morning, found in the prophet Isaiah, chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces. With 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. And my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. With it he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, Here I am. Send me. Friends, this is the word of the Lord for us this morning. Thanks be to God. Please pray with me. Startle us, O God, with your truth. Open our hearts and our minds and our ears to the word that you have for us this morning. Let that word dwell in us and change us, Lord, from who we are today to who you created us to be. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. The passage that we just read is famously called the Call of Isaiah. But what about Linda's call? What about Ed's call? What about your call? Are only priests and pastors and prophets called? Or does God call all of us? Isaiah received his call at a very important point in history. A time long ago, but not unlike our own. In the 8th century BC, about the time Homer was writing the Iliad and the Odyssey, Isaiah wrote the book that bears his name. Isaiah began as an ordinary priest going about his business in the temple, but grew to become a giant of Jewish history and the Shakespeare of the Hebrew literature. The New Testament of the Bible was written about 750 years after Isaiah, but it quotes him more than all of the other prophets combined. Isaiah lived at a crucial time. there had been a civil war, and the nation of Israel had split into the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. When he began his work, the nation seemed strong and wealthy, but he saw signs of grave danger. People were using their power to harass the poor. Men went around drunk. Women cared more about their clothes than about their neighbor's hunger. People gave lip service to God and kept up outward appearances of religiosity, but in this interior were not practicing their religion. And outside, there were warning signs too. Israel was at their border, and they were shaking their spears. The neighboring empires of Egypt and Assyria, which contained parts of modern-day Jordan and Syria, were growing. Should the kingdom of Judah form alliances with those who had been their enemies? Could they trust them? The nation of Judah, said Isaiah, stood at a crossroads. It could either regain its footing or begin a dangerous slide downward. The prophet did not temper his message for the sake of popular opinion. He had harsh and unyielding words about what changes must take place. He served as an advisor to 5 kings. He was hardly a yes man in politics. He warned the kings that relying on military power or wealth or any force other than God would lead to disaster. His very name, Isaiah, meant in Hebrew, the Lord saves. So as we look this morning at what is typically called Isaiah's call story, the first thing I want to point out is that it's actually a response story. Throughout the Bible, we have a genre that we call the call story. And typically it goes something like this. God reveals himself to someone. We can think of Abraham, or Moses, or Jonah. First, God tells them that it really is God, because they're surprised. So God says, yes, it really is God, Linda, talking to you. Then God typically tells them that he has some work for them to do. So he tells them what their mission is, what they're going to need to do. And interestingly, in almost all of the call stories, people's first response is to argue with God. Surely, God, you must have the wrong person. It couldn't possibly be me. I'm not qualified. Moses was told to go and lead his people out of Egypt, but he stuttered. How could he go and stand before Pharaoh and speak? How would people listen to him when he stuttered? Well, God had a plan for that. So God typically reassures the person who he's called, don't worry. I will give you the words. I will provide a way. But over and over again we see people say, no, God, please choose someone else. You have made a mistake. But what is interesting about Isaiah's story is that unlike that, God does not directly ask Isaiah. Instead, Isaiah hears that God needs a messenger and isn't sure who he will send. And so Isaiah actually volunteers. In our passage, Isaiah says, then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, here I am, send me. My father-in-law, Rev Nickerson, is a World War II veteran. He served in the 10th Mountain Division in Italy during the war. He was drafted during his senior year in high school when he was 18 years old. He was 6 feet tall, but weighed only 129 pounds. He knew when he went for the physical that he wasn't going to pass. So as he was standing there, he bent his knees so they measured his height as 5'9", and then he was able to enroll in the Army. When he went through grueling mountain training at Camp Hale in Colorado, he told his sergeant that he was underweight, that he shouldn't really be in the Army, but his sergeant had little sympathy for him. A few months into training, he was amazed to learn that one of his best friends, a boyhood friend named John Embry, was there. John, a Presbyterian minister's son, had grown up with my father-in-law. John had been given a military deferment to attend college. As one of the new men on campus, John was having a ball, but decided to drop out and sign up for the Army. Nick remembers walking into the barracks, and suddenly there was his friend, John Embry. "What are you doing here?" he asked him. "Why are you here?" John said, "I'm here because of you." He decided it wasn't right that he should be relaxing stateside while others served. So he volunteered for the 10th Mountain Division to be with Nick. "Here I am, Lord. Send me." While Nick was serving in Italy on April 15, 1945, during a battle with the Germans, his company was in disarray, and he and 20 other soldiers found themselves separated from the main company and strung out in a ravine. They realized that they were situated between their own company and the Germans. Artillery fire was coming back and forth, and they were in between it. They had no radio, no way to communicate with their company. Nick's squad leader said, "I need someone to run to the farmhouse and to tell our company where we are and to stop momentarily firing at us." Fred Alisi, the squad leader, wrote a message on a matchbook flag, telling them what he needed them to do. It was a split-second decision, but Nick found himself volunteering. "I heard a voice say, 'I'll go,' and I realized it was mine," he said. Nick didn't have a lot of time to think about it too deeply, but they needed someone to go, and he thought he might be able to do it. As he ran across a field to the farmhouse, his rifle was shot from his hands, and a bullet went all the way through his jacket, grazing his side. I guess being thin paid off. He made it to the farmhouse, where the rest of the company was holed up, and gave them the order to lift their fire. He was asked if he would lead a rescue party back to the ravine, and he said yes again. He then found those 20 men and led them back again to the farmhouse. Nick was later awarded the Silver Star Medal for valor in combat. He went on to be an English professor. He remains a thin, wiry man, full of energy, with a good sense of humor, whose favorite pastime is playing chess. He told very few people that he received the Silver Star Medal. A man who learned of his medal was upset that Nick had never talked about it. "Does it mean so little to you?" he asked Nick. "No," Nick replied. "It means so much. The reason that I don't talk about it is because it means so much." "Here I am, Lord. Send me." Most of us gathered here this morning are not veterans. Most of us will never experience a direct call from God, giving us a specific mission, the way Abraham did, or Moses did, or Jonah did. But all of us have the opportunity to step up when we are needed. This is part of what is so powerful about Isaiah's response. God did not call Isaiah directly. Isaiah heard the need, and he volunteered. He said, "Here I am, Lord. Send me." Martin Luther King Jr. said, "We all have the ability to be great because we all have the ability to serve." We, like Isaiah, stand at a crossroads. Next week, we will turn in and dedicate our pledge cards, to commit our resources to fulfill the mission of this church, to connect, to grow, to serve. This mission is only possible if each of us is willing to commit to the task. Offering a pledge is a way of declaring that we have volunteered, that we have heard the mission of this community, to connect, to grow, to serve, and that we have answered that call and want to be a part of it. For our country, we stand at another crossroads. After the most divisive election in our memory, we can relate to Isaiah's words. "For I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. Here, Isaiah expressed his understanding that he was an unworthy man who lived among sinful people. He was frightened to be in the presence of the holy God as he realized how far from holy he was. But he was cleansed by a seraphim. And a seraphim is simply a messenger from God, who used a burning coal to ritually purify him. As Christians, we are cleansed by Jesus, who came to forgive us for our sins and to make us new, to remake each of us in the very image of God. Today, God is asking once again, who will go for me? Who shall I send? Who will help heal the divisions in America rather than incite them? Who will serve God and their fellow man rather than themselves? Who will promote peace rather than hate? Who will work to unite us rather than divide us? The mission is far too big for either of our political parties. As we watch the news and see the turmoil around us, we can tell that the uniters won't be the people who scrawled racial graffiti on walls in New York and Minnesota, or the demonstrators in Oregon and California who are throwing M80 firecrackers, or those holding up signs for peace but speaking hate. They will not be able to heal our country. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Who will go for me? Who shall I send?" God asks. It can be you, and it can be me. Are you ready to be a true voice for peace? To talk honestly about what you believe and listen to understand the viewpoint of those who believe differently. To reach out to those on the other side, whichever side you are on, and invite those on the other side to work respectfully with you to heal our country. If you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Jesus asks. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. Jesus explains. Friends, are you ready to serve the Lord? The task is great. The need is urgent. But we don't need to be afraid, because we can do this. Our leader is the King of Kings. Our leader is the Prince of Peace, and he will show us the way. As Christians, this is our call. This is our mission. Here we are, Lord. Send us.